This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so let's continue with our brachot, fruits and vegetables. And what's the classic mistake story that we have? That I taught someone the wrong bracha and they got it wrong because they got it wrong from me, right? Blueberries, blueberries. What bracha do we make on blueberries? Bore pri ha'etz.
And that's the one you told him.
Yeah, yeah. So this is when Ashley was going through her conversion, and afterwards I said, "So how'd it go?" Well, I got one thing wrong. What'd you get wrong? She said blueberry. I said, "What'd you get wrong?" It's bari pri adama. She said, "Thank you, Rabbi. That's exactly what I got wrong. It's bari pri ha'etz." Okay, so we'll have to see what is the definition of pri ha'etz and when does it remain pri ha'adama. Okay. So on page 281 in this book that we're using over here, there is no clear consensus among the Rishonim as to what is the exact definition of Priya Eitz and Priya Adama. Okay. The basic consideration is a tree that lasts from year to year, whereas a vegetable is replanted each season. Okay, other factors, durability of the stem, height of the shrub. Okay, so survival of the stem from year to year, right? Any fruit which grows annually without being replanted, some say is bore pri ha'etz. Okay, the fact that the roots remain from year to year is sufficient to consider fruits of the fruits of the plant bore pri ha'etz. Now, according to that strict definition, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not much of a farmer, but I think tomatoes. You have a tomato bush, and every year it's going to give out its tomatoes, right? So according to that, according to those, tomato would be bari priya eitz, but it's not. Tomatoes are bari priya adama. Other Rishonim qualify this definition with the condition that the plant stem itself must remain from year to year, regardless of whether the stem is sturdy or thin and frail. If the stem does not survive the winter, the annual fruit cannot, in their opinion, have the status of bari pri ha'etz. Now, right, and the latter opinion is accepted by most authorities. Okay? Now, even besides that, it would make the most sense if we have a doubt if something is bari pri ha'etz or bari pri adama. What would we go with? Why, Mr. Victor? Good. Adama covers eitz. Eitz does not cover adama. If a person mistakenly made a bore pri adama on an orange, on an apple, something that's clearly bore pri eitz, bidi eved, if it's done already, that you don't make another bracha. You fulfilled your mitzvah bracha, and on the contrary, making another bracha would be a bracha levatala, a blessing in vain, because that first blessing counted because if it grows on the tree grows from the ground, so everything on the tree is essentially bore priha adama. But if I were to make a bore priha eitz on something that is actually deemed adama, right, the tree blessing on the ground blessing, so then I have not fulfilled my bracha. I would need to make another bracha because the adama fruit, the earth fruit, does not grow on a tree. It has no connection to a tree. Okay. Let's see some practical application. Let's go to C. Raspberries and blackberries. Right? Now, first of all, keep in mind, raspberries and blackberries are very, very, very hard to check for insects. That's a completely different issue. Okay? But they commonly grow on a bush which lasts from year to year and is taller than 11 inches. Thus, their bracha should be ha'etz. However, since each branch produces fruit only 1 year, contemporary authorities are unsure about the status. It is therefore advisable to recite ha'adama. Like we said, when in doubt, when in a halachic doubt, adama. Blueberries. Some early authorities maintain that one recites Adama blueberries. Apparently, their blueberries grew on a shorter type of bush. Our blueberries, however, grow on a tree-like bush, which lasts from year to year, taller than 11 inches. Consequently, they require a ha'etz. I stand corrected. Strawberries grow from roots, which last from year to year, but the stems do not survive the winter. Accordingly, on strawberries, one makes ha'adama. However, with strawberries, in the event that one mistakenly said ha'etz, one need not repeat the bracha, since some say ha'etz is the proper, right? The proper bracha. However, many authorities say the bracha is ineffective, right? One should eat only enough to validate the bracha. Okay. Bananas and pineapples. Bananas can be towering, right? Some fruit trees have the appearance of trees, while in fact they are not trees. For example, a banana tree resembles a tree. It is not halachically a tree. The trunk of the tree does not produce a second crop and is destroyed each season. The proper bracha of bananas is therefore ha'adama. However, since the roots of the banana tree produce a new tree each year, its status is similar to that of strawberries. So if one mistakenly said ha'etz, one need not repeat the bracha. Papaya, in some cases, the tree may last several years. Another example, papaya tree, right, is similar to a vegetable and other botanic features. Okay, so hadama on papaya, as with any fruits whose status, as we said before, is questionable. Right? Cranberry plants can reach height of 12 inches, therefore they require ha'etz. Okay. Interesting. Potted plants. Okay. Okay. The standard approach, right? So can you make a bari priya adama on a potted plant? Or do you make shahako? Because it's not really growing from the ground. It's growing from the pot, right? The pot, we're talking about a pot that does not have a hole in it. So it's not connected to Mother Earth at all. But we make bari pri ha'adama. Yes, we make bari pri ha'adama. Hydroponics, right? That's interesting because that's not, right, Victor, as you said, well, even in a potted plant, it's still soil. It's still adama that's in there. But if it's hydroponics, it's grown on water, right? One cannot. I mean, many say you cannot say adama on hydroponically grown vegetables, right? So one who eats hydroponically grown vegetables should recite shahako and thereby avoid a questionable bracha. Because just like we said, ha'adama will cover if it's a eitz, shahako will also cover if it's adama. Shahako will cover everything. Okay, we already went through, right? If you reverse the bracha, if you made adama on a tree fruit, then it is okay, right? Okay, that's an important point. So if I mistakenly made adama on a tree fruit, that's good enough. Okay? But let's say I have in front of me, right? I have in front of me a tomato and an apple. Okay? So I have banana and apple. And I made bar pri adama on the banana, that will not cover the tree fruit, even though if I mistakenly said it on the tree fruit, and therefore I would need to make another bracha, a proper bracha on that. Okay, ha'etz on the vegetables we said, right? So then, right, obviously that's not going to work. Okay. Okay, interesting. Right? When do the fruits and vegetables require their bracha? It has to be ripened, developed to the point that this is a normal fruit and it must be edible, right? A raw potato, right? A raw carrot is not an issue because carrots are eaten either cooked or raw. Potatoes are not eaten raw. So if one were to eat a raw potato, one would not make bari pri hadama because that's not it has not reached that stage of being the pri hadama until it is edible in the way that it's normally going to be eaten. Okay. Right? So like we said over here on page 290, a fruit that's only eaten cooked, you're eating it raw, shahako. A fruit normally eaten raw would have shahako if it's eaten cooked. Right? Interesting. Right? So let's say an apple. Right? So an apple, right? A common dessert is a baked apple. So that can go either way. Right? But people typically don't cook oranges. Right? Hmm? I don't know. Yeah, right. You don't typically cook oranges, right? It's interesting. Like pineapple, people sometimes will bake pineapple on a on a chicken or something like that on different things. Yes, a banana bread. So that's already going to be well. You would not make bar pri adam on banana bread, right? If it becomes a cake, you make it mizonot, right? But something that is not normally eaten, right? Um, Cooked, right? So then you would make on a cooked date, for example, right? A cooked date or a cooked fig or cooked grapes, right? On that one would make a shahako.
Even if the fruit is high,
Even
if the fruit is high,
correct.
Then it becomes charcoal.
Correct. If you're eating either an adama or either a ground fruit, adama, or a tree fruit, a eitz, in an abnormal fashion that's normally eaten cooked, you're eating it raw, normally eaten raw, and you're eating it cooked, then it gets degraded down.
Oh, even the seven spices.
Right, interesting. Look at number 4 on page 292. Fruits which are normally eaten raw, not cooked, certainly require ha'etz or adama when eaten raw. If the fruits deteriorate in quality when cooked, one who eats them cooked recites a shahako, cooked banana, right? That's when it will get degraded. If, however, the fruits are equally tasty, either cooked or raw, one recites ha'etz, even though they're normally only eaten raw. I'm not sure what a case of that would be. Okay. Okay, let's look at number 6. Vegetables as condiments. Okay, page 293. Certain vegetables are not eaten alone, either raw or cooked, but are used to flavor other foods. So therefore, why would I rarely make a bracha on them? If it's just a condiment, I'm not going to make a bracha on it, right? Because that goes back to what we discussed before of an ikar and a tafel, a main and a secondary, right? So I put ketchup onto something. I'm not going to make a bracha on the ketchup, right? It's there just a flavor, right? So one who eats these vegetables alone recites shahako since they are not ordinarily eaten alone. For example, horseradish, right? That's usually there to flavor other foods. You're eating plain horseradish, you want to torture yourself a little bit, right? You make a shahakal on that. Radishes, large black radishes, which are normally not eaten alone, only shahakal. Onion and garlic. Okay, so onion and garlic, right? Very often onions are somewhat eaten alone once they're cooked.
They're good.
Yeah, delicious. So he writes, onion and garlic are generally not eaten alone. Thus, one who eats them alone recites shahako, even if they are cooked. If, however, the onions are excessively cooked or fried in oil or butter until they become tasty, right? My wife, she likes to she bakes a lot of those, like those red onions. You bake them; they're absolutely delicious. Yeah. So that would certainly be ha'adama. That would not lose its bracha. Onion rings, fried onions coated with flour or matzah meal, right, require a mizonot, right? The flour is added for taste and is considered to be the ikar. Okay. 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 D is interesting, right? We have this when we have hearts of palm. Okay. So the fruit itself must be eaten. Just one second. Let me go here. See, the question is hearts of palm already now considered to be almost what it's planted for, right? Just let me look this up one second. Anybody have a clarity on hearts of palm? I'm going to go to my Brachos app. Kosher Brachos. Let's see what he says over here. Okay. One cannot recite ha'etz on page 295 unless one eats the fruit itself. Often the fruit is accompanied by other edible growths. Although one may plant the tree for the purpose of producing these growths as well, they are secondary to the fruit. This inferior nature of this produce prompted Chazal to assign a brach of a lower rank. So if one eats produce grown secondary to a fruit, which grows secondary to a fruit, he recites ha'adama. So even though it's a tree, that which is secondary to the actual fruit will be demoted, lowered down to ha'adama. Second. Hearts of palm. Okay. So, we'll come to that soon. That's great. We'll see two different opinions, basically what we were just going up and back. Okay. Poskim differ as to whether edible fruit pits or seeds are considered part of the fruit and ha'etz or secondary in adama. So if you're eating fruit pits, should recite to adama. Okay. Now, the trees must be planted for the purpose of that fruit. Leaves, around 296 now, E1. One who eats vine leaves, shahako, even if the leaves are edible, right? Because the tree is not planted for you to be eating the leaves. Almonds, okay? One is the common almond, eaten only after it is ripened. Another type of almond is edible only when it's in its undeveloped state. It's too bitter to be eaten after having ripened, okay? Common almonds. One who eats an underdeveloped would make shahako, right? Right? But once it is fully developed, right? Interesting. Underdeveloped, you're eating the shell. Okay, I don't know. Do you eat the shells of the almonds, the underdeveloped almonds? I don't know if we have those things around. Okay, orange rind, right? Which basically the peel of the orange, right? The range is from ha'etz down to adama, down to shahako. Some say it's part of the fruit itself, eitz. Others say that it's secondary, and therefore it goes down to adama. A third one says that no, right? Normally that is gotten rid of. That's compared to the leaves. and should be down to a shahakol, right? So therefore, you have to play it safe. If you're eating sweetened orange rinds, what bracha would you make? The lowest common denominator. You make the shahakol on it. Okay. Now, when it comes to hearts of palm, so hearts of palm is coming from the palm tree. Palm trees are usually used for what? What fruits are growing on the palm tree? Dates. That's the usual thing. Okay. So according to star K, you make bari pri ha'etz. According to the OU, you make bari pri ha'adama. Why? Because the trees are not planted for the hearts of palm. They're planted for the palm, whatever itself, or the dates. Okay, so that's exactly the question that it boils down to, and that's why there's different opinion between the star K and the OU, right? Do we say nowadays that planting it for the hearts of palm? If that's what they're planting it for, then it'll be bari priya eitz, right? If they're planting it for the palm leaves or if there are dates on it, so then it will be demoted down to ha'adama. Okay. Now, once something is turned into a juice, okay, interesting. Take on page 300. Right? So typically, once something is made into a juice, it gets demoted down to what? Shahako. Whether it was orange juice made from Bar Priya 8, Shahako. Tomato or banana juice or strawberry juice made from Bar Priya Dama, you make Shahako. Olive oil is an exception. Why? Because the olive oil is the fruit. The main purpose of planting olive trees is to produce olive oil, as opposed to the fruit. Therefore, the bracha of olive oil is ha'etz, but it's very, very rare because you can't drink olive oil, right? Right, and so typically it's going to be right if it says one who drinks olive oil will make no bracha at all. That's not a food. Okay, it's dangerous probably, right? And in other cases, it'll be tafel to whatever it is added to. It's secondary, and you make the bracha on that. So the singular case in which one would make a bracha on olive oil, one has a sore throat and drinks oil mixed with other flavorings. Don't try this at home. In this case, the oil which needs to soothe the throat is a primary ingredient and is not tafel, and it's made palatable by the added ingredients, right? Now, if I'm taking medicine, I don't make a bracha on medicine. But if I'm eating food for medicinal purposes, then I do make a bracha. So that would be the case when I would make a bracha on olive oil. Wine is also, an exception to the rule of fruit juices, right? Its primary purpose of producing grapes is for the wine, right? So therefore, were it not for its special status, its bracha would be ha'etz. But since wine has this elevated status, because it's both satiating and a cheering drink, therefore it has its own bracha of bari pri hagafen. Okay. Interesting. Oranges, right? So where are oranges grown? I think mostly in Florida and also California.
They grow in a humid weather.
Yeah. So there are some places where the oranges there are grown for orange juice.
Yeah.
Right? So one could argue that in that case, if that's what the oranges are grown for, then oranges that are coming from there, you would make orange juice, you'd make bari priya eitz, because that's the main purpose of that fruit. But we don't do that, right? It's not clear where they're coming from, whatever it is, but the general approach is shahakal and orange juice, even if it's very pulpy, right? Doesn't make a difference. You'd make shahakal. Interesting. Number 6, if you're sucking juice from a fruit. When I was a kid, we used to take an orange, we used to pound it, make a hole in it, and then suck the juice right out from it. Right? So, am I eating the fruit or am I drinking the juice? Right? If it's the juice, it's shahakol. If it's the fruit, then it's ha'etz. So the following rule is how how on page 302 A and B. If one puts the fruit in, like the orange section, into one's mouth, and then is chewing and sucking on it, then that's eating the fruit. You'd make a bari pri ha'etz. If one has not chewed the fruit but holds it in his hand and sucks on that, then that's considered drinking the juice. Okay, and sugar also, right? Different opinions on it, but we're going to go down. We're going to get the lowest common denominator again, and that's going to be the shahako. Okay, let's say it gets ground up. This fruit gets ground up to the point that it has lost its solid form. Okay, let's see examples. Okay, on page 304, chopped or cut fruits, right? Any fruit, no matter how finely it may be chopped or in what shape may be formed, retains its original bracha. For example, chopped nuts will remain either eitz or adama, depending what they are, right? Unless they're ground very finely. But if it's just chopped, potato chips require a ha'adama. Popcorn requires ha'adama, right? Because, right, the corn has merely been formed into a new shape. Cornflakes, right? So that depends. If it's made from corn flour, then I think Kellogg's is made from corn flour. You make shahako. But I know in Israel there was a company called Telma that made cornflakes, and that was made from flattened corn kernels. So on that you would make a bore pri ha'adama. Mashed potatoes, right? Mashed fruits. 2A, mashed potatoes, adama. Peanut butter will also be ha'adama, right? Now it's normally eaten tafel, right, along with something else. But if you like a spoonful of peanut butter, so then that bracha would be bari pri ha'adama. Okay, applesauce, right? So if they're mashed or ground, ha'etz. If they're so ground so thoroughly, they're now a thick liquid, right? Which is basically what our applesauce is. It can be poured out as a thick liquid, right? Then it would be shahako. Potato kugel, right? It was made from grated potatoes, hadama. It was made from potatoes that were right. Did you slice them in the food processor or did you put them into a blender? Right, you put them into a blender. Now it's pureed, right? So then it would be shahako. You put into a food processor. So you have all these strips, these slices of potato. It will be bore pri ha'adama. Okay. Okay, let's go to Bore Pri Hagafen. Let's do it. Second. Okay. So grape wine has special status, right? As I mentioned before, it both satiates and gladdens, and therefore they were given its own special bracha. Okay, and we make the Bore Pri Hagefen on our Bore Pri Hagefen, different pronunciations. Okay, grape juice, Non-fermented, still Bari Pri Agafen. Cooked wine, right? That's Mavushal, right? It will still be Bari Pri Agafen. Grape juice ices. Right? So that's going to lose its status as wine once it's transformed into a solid, and that would be shahako. Okay, wine vinegar. Okay, that we're not going to be drinking. Interesting. Okay, reconstituted grape juice, right? Had water added to restore its proper consistency. Perhaps not considered wine. We make a bari pri geffen, but better not to use that for kiddush. Raisin wine has the status of wine, bari pri geffen. Okay, I'm not. Directions for producing raisin wine. Okay, we're not going to go through that. Okay. Okay, this is important. On page 322. Just like we say that bread is the de facto primary food and almost everything else becomes tafel to it. So wine is the primary drink. 322b. Wine is the premier liquid drink. Everything else is secondary. So the bracha over wine covers all other liquid drinks that are present on the table when the bracha is recited. Okay? So then, one who recited a bracha, number one, page 323, on wine recites neither a bracha rishona or a blessing before, rishona or achrona after, or on any other liquid that was on the table. Okay. How about the liquids that were not on the table at the time? Right? So that then becomes a bit of a question. So best to have the other liquids that one plans to drink on the table when the bracha is recited. Now this is talking about outside the context of a bread meal, of course. In the context of a bread meal, you're not making brachas. You make bracha on the wine, but not on any other drinks, even in the absence of any wine over there.
There will be unnecessary brachas.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. So let's say at the Kiddush, let's say at our Kiddush, let's say a person is not going to be washing, right? So the person heard me making Kiddush, but didn't drink any wine. So then, if they're not washing, so then they'll need to make a bracha on their drinks, okay? Because they didn't make a bracha on the wine. And let's say they did make a bracha on the wine, but they just had that little shot glass that we have, which is less than a cheekful, which is the Mali Lugmav. So in such a case, that also will, even though one made a bracha on the wine, but they had a little cup of wine, that will not exempt the other brachot. So again, if you're not washing at the Shabbos Kiddush luncheon, and you had right, and you didn't have any of the wine, or you had a little wine when I made Kiddush, we had one of those little shot glasses of wine, right? That will not exempt you from making the brachas on the other drinks that will be taking place during that meal. Okay, vegetable and fruit soups. Ooh. Okay, vegetable soups. When does it acquire the bracha of the vegetable? or when will it be a shahakol? Differing opinions. 327, number 1. We shouldn't disagree. What conditions are necessary? Right? Some say, I'm now 328a, right? Only the main purpose of cooking the vegetables is normally in order to eat the vegetables themselves. Therefore, the vegetable as the primary ingredient gives its bracha to the soup. However, the usual purpose of the cooking is to prepare the soup itself, right? And the vegetable is there to flavor the soup. Right? The vegetable is discarded prior to serving. The bracha is the usual bracha pronounced over liquids, shahakol. Okay, so are the vegetables staying in the soup, or are they there in order to flavor the soup, and then I get rid of the vegetables? Then it will be according to them. That according to this opinion A, it will be shahako. Okay. Let's go to the consensus. Number 2 on page 329. As a result of the controversy discussed above, one who wishes to eat the soup in which the vegetable is cooked is often faced with the question of which bracha to recite. If the soup was cooked primarily for the vegetables, right, adama, according to 1a. Others say since the cooking was not the purpose of the soup, one who eats the soup recites shahako. Okay, so what do we say we should do here? Okay, we'll see when there's a suffix bracha, right, we make shahako. So one would recite hadama on vegetable soup only if the purpose of the cooking is normally both for the benefit of the vegetables and the soup. The purpose of the cooking is normally both for the benefit of the vegetables to make them edible and because it adds to the soup. Okay, but one or the other, right? Then it would be shahakol on that, right?
If the main look is not to eat the vegetable just for the flavor of the soup, that's what you call, and then but if it's for the vegetable, then it's harima.
Yes. Okay, so let's go to 331C, practical applications. Okay, soup cooked for the purpose of the soup only. Okay, the vegetable normally discarded upon completion of cooking, right? You make shahako. Tomato soup, right? The bracha of tomato soup with tomato juice is shahako. Tomatoes are cooked for their juice. Any remainder of the tomatoes generally discarded. Tea, coffee, beer, and whiskey, right, is going to be shahako, right? The tea leaves, coffee beans are discarded. Soups, which are a byproduct of cooked vegetables. At times, the soup is a byproduct of the preparation of vegetables. So let's see, pickle juice. One who drinks pickle juice recites a shahako since the purpose of the pickling was not for the juice, but for the pickles. Borscht. Familiar with borscht? That's a good Russian dish of these cooked beets. The proper bracha of a borscht is shahako. Beets in this country are generally cooked only for the purpose of the beet itself. So the remaining juice would be shahako. Okay. Okay, but let's say you're making a cabbage soup or a vegetable soup, right? So there, the main purpose is the vegetables. That's that, right? There you make your bori pri hadama, bean or pea soup, potato soup. All those would make an adama. Okay. Let's go to good old-fashioned chicken soup. 334b. Chicken soup requires shahako, even if it's cooked with vegetables, celery, carrots, onions, whatever it might be. The chicken is the dominant taste of the soup. All other tastes are secondary. One who eats the vegetables in the soup separately, large pieces of celery carrot, must recite ha'adama in addition to the shahako. If there are very small pieces, just there to add flavor, they require no bracha of their own. Okay. Fruit soups is basically going to be like juice. Okay? And you're going to be making a shahako on that. Right? But if it's fruit soup, let's see. Let's go more into this. Yeah, so the only example I could is what he brings over here. If you have these cooked peaches, right? So then you would make that bracha on the peaches, and even though you're eating the nectar afterwards, right? That's like having cereal and milk and then drinking the milk afterwards. You don't make a bracha on the milk afterwards. Once it's tafel, so therefore it's covered. Even if there's a little bit left over afterwards, right? You would not make the bracha on that. Okay. Going back to what we had before, let's go look at Shahakal for a moment, page 344. Just 1 second. Interesting. Take a look at 343, the proper pronunciation of the bracha. Authorities differ as the proper pronunciation of the word nihiyeh, of Shahakal. Some maintain it should be nihiyah, right, with the kametz. Others believe it should be nihiyeh, with the segel, the sound. The prevailing custom is to use the segel vowel. Hence, shakol nihiyeh bidvaro. Not shakol nihiyah bidvaro. Shakol nihiyeh bidvaro. Okay, certain things, right? So shahakol, things don't grow from the ground, right? And are not mizonot. We make shahakol. Meat, eggs, milk, water, also mushrooms, right? Because they don't draw their sustenance from the ground. They grow on the ground as opposed to from the ground. Okay. Right? If a person mistakenly made shakal on anything, that will cover. And we saw before also that when there is this different lack of consensus among the poskim, we go to what I call the greatest common denominator, and that's going to be, in certain cases, down all the way down to shahakal. Okay, this is stuff. Okay, this is interesting. Take a look on page 353. G1. In all instances where there is halachic controversy between poskim as to the validity of a bracha, if the controversy, Tosha 354, concerns the b'di'eved, ex post facto validity of the bracha, the following rule should be followed. One should eat a small amount of the food over which the bracha was pronounced. That way it's not a bracha, right? If oh no, it's the wrong bracha, you're not going to eat anything, then you know for sure it's going to be a bracha levatala. So you should eat a small amount to avoid the bracha levatala. Right? And then after that minimal amount, stop eating, right? Don't keep eating because you don't know if you had the right bracha or not. If you want to continue eating, then you should bring about a hefsek. A hefsek is that interruption. So if you're not sure, what do? Right? So you should go outside for a minute and come back in. We learned before, shinoi malkum, changing your place, that affects a a shinoi, and that would allow you to then make a bracha properly. Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. Okay, my friends. I think we will close out our brachos and get started on, again, next Tuesday. I'm pretty sure that I've been asked to go back to this city of Irvine city council meeting and to speak there. So chances are we will not be getting together next Tuesday, but we'll resume in a second. Let's get a calendar in front of me. Yeah, not the 9th. Yes, the 16th. And then I'm away for my daughter's wedding on the East Coast. I'll be away the 23rd and the 30th. Okay. So not the 9th, yes, the 16th, and then we'll pick up in February 6th, Bezrat Hashem. So yeah. Okay, so the 16th will probably be an introduction to Shabbos, and then we'll get heavily into it February.
Amazing.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Good night.
I'm gonna, yeah, the RCC, but